Welcome back to Sketchbook Sanctuary. It's a monthly series where we meet up with our sketchbooks and spend some dedicated time together. Every month, Sketchbook Sanctuary is here to give you a little nudge back into your sketchbook, like your creative accountability partner in the form of this gentle video. Think of it as a gentle accountability partner, a way of showing up for your creative practice without any pressure. We'll go slowly with long quiet moments, soft insights, and an invitation for you to sketch alongside me at your own pace. Today I'm starting a brand new sketchbook. In the last Sketchbook Sanctuary you saw me finish my previous sketchbook. I've since done a big sketchbook tour. It's a big sketchbook tour. It's an hour-long video. I dive deep into all my thoughts and feelings of almost every page and every drawing in there. Let me tell you a little bit about this sketchbook. I got this when I was in Ireland last year in 2024. I love collecting little sketchbooks when I go traveling, although the hard thing is when I come back and get time to actually use it and I really like it, it's harder to go and get it again. Anyway, I got this when I was in Ireland from Duffy's Bookbinders, and it's a beautiful family-run company of bookbinders, and they make sketchbooks, notebooks, all sorts of things. I was instantly drawn to this beautiful ivory, creamy, off-white paper and the purple linen covered cover. The last sketchbook I used was white paper, and I have always been drawn to creamy ivory paper, so it's been really nice to get back into some paper that's really soft and creamy. The paper is 160 GSM paper and it's really smooth. There's no tooth to it really, and it's A5 sized. So I'm really excited to get into it. I love starting new sketchbooks and getting to know sketchbooks. Love getting to know what art supplies, what materials the sketchbook likes, and what materials I like to use in it and try and combine the two to find the perfect fit for us both. So, like every sketchbook, I like to open the first page and have an intention. So my last sketchbook had the intention of a soft place to get lost. And I really wanted that sketchbook to be somewhere where I did a lot of experimenting and just get lost in the play and the silliness and the colors and the lines and experimentation. But it'd be a nice, soft, comfy place for me to do so. A sort of a place with no judgment. So I was really inspired by that, I think, and I filled that sketchbook so quickly. With this sketchbook, I decided to give it the title, A Love Letter Written in Leaves, and that is sort of a follow-on from the end of the last sketchbook when I was making all those little drawings about flowers and houses and falling in love and a little love story going on there. So it's sort of me continuing on that little story, a love letter written in leaves. And you know, paper is made out of trees, and I guess that's sort of me pretending that this sketchbook, the pages are kind of like leaves, and all the drawings on these sketchbook pages / leaves are my little love letters to the world and to how I experience my experience, how I experience my own experience, how I experience the world, how I experience my thoughts and feelings. Yeah, and sometimes love letters have sad things, and sometimes they have lovely things, and sometimes they can be with frustrations or joys or wins. So yeah, it's kind of a bit of everything. I wanted this sketchbook to be a safe place for all of that kind of stuff. So I started off with a lot of what I like to call pre-blobbinating. I like to have my first pages in my sketchbook to be a really comfy place for me. I like to draw stuff that makes me comfy, that I know looks good, that I know I'm comfortable with drawing or comfortable with doing. I started one page in. I ended up going back and doing the front cover and sticking something over the little blurb. But yeah, I actually started the second page in. Yeah, so I'm comfortable with using watercolors, and so I grabbed a bunch of colors that I really like, that make me feel good. All of these sort of olivey, acidy greens and some pinks and purples, and I just blobbed them around. Nothing really too thought through, just putting them next to each other, letting the water bleed through from one page to another. I ended up going back to the first front cover, and I wanted to cover the words, as lovely as they are and the storytelling of them are. I thought it would be nice to just completely make it freshly mine, so I stuck on this painting that I did during a Scribble Brigade last month, I think it was, or maybe the month before. It was like this little bunch of leaves that I had painted with watercolors using kind of a dry brush effect. And I just stuck that in almost directly over all of the writing. I also have all these lovely little washi tapes that I've collected. And I also took a little selfie. I like to put in a little selfie at the front of my sketchbooks. It's something I've been doing for the last couple of years. And it's just, I think it's for future Sophie to look back on and see what she looked like, what kind of point she was in her life, and yeah, I don't know, my sketchbooks are very diary or journal-esque, so putting a little self-portrait in, I think, is a nice way to remember the version of Sophie that drew in this sketchbook, or that had this sketchbook so close for so many months. So I taped in some more washi tape, and yeah, there's the first little cover. So that covers up pretty much all of the writing on that front inner cover of the page, and already I'm feeling like really good about it. That's sort of where I began, and I needed to write the date that I started. So I actually started this on the 10th of July 2025. So here I am just writing that in real quick with some little brush pen, little marker. Lately, I've been spending a lot of time in my sketchbook. I sometimes have a few on the go. As I was working through, not the last sketchbook, but the sketchbook before, I spent a year in that one, but in the while I was working in that sketchbook, I had about 3 or 4 other sketchbooks on the go as well. So that took me ages to get through, it felt like. Whereas the last couple, I've been just smashing through them. And actually, as I'm recording the voiceover for this, I am already about halfway through this current sketchbook, because I've just been wild about the sketchbook. I've been really enjoying time. I've been dedicating a little bit every morning with my coffee and my muesli and doing a little bit of sketchbook stuff, and it's been really lovely. And I definitely go through phases. I go through ins and outs of wanting to be active in my sketchbook. Sometimes I will go a month or a few weeks without drawing in it very much. Other times I will fill 5 spreads a day. And there's really not much consistency when it comes to how I fill in my sketchbook, because it's all feels, it's all vibes. Yeah. So now I've done a little bit of swatching on this first page, again using some colours that I'm really comfortable with and that I really enjoy using, and I thought I would draw in or paint in a little bit of a quilted patch. I'm someone who loves quilts. I grew up with quilts. They've always been a huge part of my life, and they represent a lot of comfort and stability and like warmth, parental love kind of feeling, family love sort of vibes. And so I always love to draw quilts and put them into my artwork where I can. And doing these little quilt patches in my sketchbook is just a little reminder that I give myself every so often in my sketchbook. So I thought I would do one here, and I used a few different art supplies for it. In the last sketchbook, I did a page which was called My Guest House, where I use almost all of the art supplies in my pen and pencil and texter tub. I use all sorts of different overlapping art supplies, and I really enjoyed it. I really enjoyed seeing how different things overlapped and overlaid, and how things worked together or didn't work together, and what sort of textures could be achieved by just experimenting with different art supplies over and over and over again. So I sort of wanted to bring that in a little bit into just filling out different things in this little quilt patch. So I used a mixture of watercolor, some gouache, some Ecoline, some other brush pens. There's Prismacolor pencil in there. Yeah, and I think that's about it. Some just markers, connectable textures. Yeah, a little bit of everything. And I also like to play with color palettes as well when I'm doing these quilt patches. And sometimes it starts off real good, it starts off strong, and then I make a strange decision, and then there's weird feelings going on with colors. With this one, the way it turned out, I wasn't too crash hot on the way the color palette turned out, but it's fine, it's part of the process. And also it's kind of fun to see the weird decisions made that might not be very aesthetically pleasing in the end. And I need to remind myself that not every single page needs to be aesthetically pleasing. In fact, I'm actively trying to make sure that some ugly stuff stays in the sketchbook. That's just practice for myself. I think since really starting to put my sketchbooks online, I have become a lot more self-conscious of making sure that everything looks lovely, whereas the sketchbooks from before the time I used to put them online, I used to actively not put my sketchbooks online because I wanted them to be my secret safe places. But I spend so much time in my sketchbook, I needed it to start to become part of my practice and what I share online, and people love looking at sketchbooks and I love looking at sketchbooks. So yeah, that's sort of why I started to make my sketchbooks look a little bit beautiful. But over the last year or 2 or 3 even, I've been trying to reel that back in and make sure to leave some stuff that looks uglier, or mistakes, or things that get scribbled out, or experiments and stuff like that. I think also because over the last few years, I have been drawing a lot more consistently. I draw a lot. I draw almost every day. Sometimes not, but pretty much more or less every day. I've gotten more comfortable with being able to draw what is in my mind and putting it on the page. So, I don't really make as many ugly drawings as I used to. And maybe that's because I'm less afraid to make ugly drawings, so they don't necessarily turn out to be that ugly. And it's all just practice, and it's all just doing the thing and doing and doing and doing and doing. So maybe I'm also just I don't know how to say the words, but maybe I'm also just caring less, and maybe what I think are slightly ugly drawings, other people don't think are ugly drawings, and being less afraid of trying things and making quote-unquote ugly things. They don't turn out as ugly anymore. Yeah, I don't know. That's just a little bit of a brain vomit. I don't know if that made any sense. But yeah, more or less, trying the things more often means that it's less scary and less bad stuff happens. Not that there's anything wrong with the, again, quote-unquote bad things. It's good to do stuff that's weird and comes out bad and ugly, because that's just you learning, and that's just you being able to then recognize that, oh yes, I didn't like this for this reason. Next time I won't do it like that. Or next time I'll take this other thing that I learned and apply that. Blah, blah, blah. Yeah. So when I spend time in my sketchbook, I go through phases. I have phases of what I call rampages, with fixations on certain art tools, art supplies. At the moment, I've been in love with this Sailor Feud fountain pen, which I just fill with my own inks that I have. Whenever it runs out, I just refill with my own inks and a little pipette so I can choose the colors that I want every time. I use it all the time. I love it a lot. It's the third one I've ever had. I've gone through a couple and used them so much that I destroyed them over the years from my roughness. But this one is lasting pretty good. I got this one at Christmas time and I'm trying to be a bit more careful with it and using it more gently. I'm not someone who is really, really too precious about their art supplies. I'm happy to kind of just roll things around and see what happens and get a bit messy. I mean, what's the point in buying nice art supplies if you never use them, right? It's fun to be able to use them. I saw someone say that in one of the comments on one of my YouTube videos several years ago. They were like, I stopped caring about being afraid to use the good art supplies and my life has been happier, something along those lines. And I was like, yes, I'm going to do that. Yeah, I use all the things and it's fun. But what was I saying? I was talking about going on rampages with certain art supplies. I have been definitely rampaging this fountain pen, but also since the last sketchbook when I did the guest house piece where I used all of the art supplies, I've been really excited about just using everything all together, all at once, and seeing what happens. It's very fun and very funny, and sometimes weird and sometimes amazing. Maybe I'm also in a little bit of my texture era. Every so often, we go through these rampages, I go through these rampages. Sometimes I want things to be extra smooth and clean and precise and almost like, not algorithmic, but like fractal or, I don't know, very well thought through. And then sometimes I go through wanting to be really messy and abstract and paintbrushy, and there's textures and there's this and there's that. I think I'm doing that at the moment, where I want all the texture and I want all the messiness and I want all the layers. Yeah, it's funny. But it also changes depending on the subject matter. I feel like when I'm doing a lot of my illustrations, finished illustrations, they're all quite clean and flat and like well thought through. But then when I'm doing landscapes and that sort of thing, they're way more messy, they're way more blobby, there's way more layers and that sort of thing. So trying to still figure out and play with combining those two different elements. Illustration is my main love and it is my first love and it's the thing I love to do the most. So finding ways to combine the messiness and the scratchiness and the textural goodness of the landscapes I like to do with illustration is something that I've been thinking about a lot lately. And yeah, and playing with that in my sketchbook has been very fun and very good. This is a fantastic little pen. I should also mention this one because I use it a lot. It's called High Tech C by Pilot, and I use it all the time. A couple of years ago, I bought a big pack of like 10 of them, and I have them in different spots around the house in different pencil cases, and I use them a lot. I love them. I love how fine line they are. They're really good for cross-hatching, they're really good for shading and stuff, but they're also really good for very small, delicate drawings. And they're also really good for writing. And it's fun to switch between this little fine liner pen and the Sailor Feud fountain pen because, yeah, one is small and controlled and the other one is lumpy and bumpy and thick and inky. Yeah, I like switching it up and keeping myself on my own toes. So yeah, just the front page here is just, again, colors of things I like. an intention, which is a love letter written in leaves, some little drawings that I have drawn before that I know I can draw well, that are in my comfort zone, so that when I open the sketchbook, I'm like, yes, that's a thing that I like and know and feel comfortable with. This is going to be a good sketchbook. So that's sort of it. That's what the front page is looking like. I also spent some time in the second spread as well, which unfortunately I was filming and my camera, I did the stupid thing where I accidentally filmed in between takes. So there we go. That's my brain. That happens. I'm sure that's happened to all of us who make videos and stuff. So I started filming and then at some point it all went wrong. But anyway, again, I took inspiration from this guest house piece that I did in the last sketchbook that I've mentioned several times already, which if you want to have a proper look at it, maybe go have a look at my sketchbook tour. And yeah, just played with different art supplies and layers and little motifs and things that I was comfortable with drawing. Also, sometimes I like to go back on older sketchbooks, whether that's the sketchbook that I just finished or even earlier ones, and go back and be like, okay, what is something that I was drawing a lot of, or something that makes me feel a certain thing that I want to remember, and I will sort of bring that into the new sketchbook at the beginning of the new sketchbook as almost like a little library, a little content library thing at the beginning of the sketchbook, being like, of me sort of reminding myself of things that were interesting, of little motifs or little doodles or little styled things that I'm like, this is me, remember this me being this, putting it in there so I can go back easily and find it and look at it and be like, yes, this is what I want to include throughout this sketchbook here and there. Yeah. I also like using all sorts of different mediums in the first few pages of my sketchbook so that I can get to know this sketchbook and this sketchbook can get to know me. I can figure out what materials work well in this sketchbook and what materials don't, what feels good, what doesn't feel good. They're all so different. This sketchbook is really funny with ink, I've discovered. It does this weird drinking inny, bleedy, spotty thing. But with watercolors, it's a lot better. It just doesn't like too much water. This sketchbook really likes Tombow markers, but you can't layer too much because the paper gets a bit peely. Pencils are really nice on this sketchbook, Prismacolor pencils. I've been really enjoying in it. And a lot of pens, like this little high-tech C pen, I've been using it a lot in this sketchbook. And I've been playing a lot with layering of things, light layering, which has been really nice as well. I think the main thing is ink. It bleeds through a little bit weirdly, but if you're not worried about how pages bleed through and stuff showing on the other side, I don't think it really matters. Like, I don't really care about that very much. If I'm doing really precise and careful drawings and it bleeds through, I get a little bit annoyed, but it's not too bad. But I found that watercolor and gouache has been my favorite thing to use in this sketchbook. I think because the paper is nice and smooth and it has this ivory creaminess to it, so all the bright and vibrant colors that I use just have this dreamy, almost romantic, vintage feel about them, and I like that a lot. Yeah. So I hope you enjoyed this little sketchbook sanctuary. I hope you spent a little bit of time sketching along with me and doing some drawing. I'd love to hear some of your insights about how you like to start a brand new sketchbook. What thought process do you have in starting a new sketchbook, and what are your go-to things? What are your techniques in a new sketchbook? I'd love to know. We can all share. I will definitely be reading. So yeah, these are the first 2 pages of this sketchbook, and they are cute, they are comfy, they are filled with things that make me feel comfortable and that I know I can draw well, and they set the tone of the sketchbook. I'm excited to paint in this sketchbook. And that's it for this month's Sketchbook Sanctuary. I hope this gave you a gentle nudge into your sketchbook practice, and I'll be back here next month for another slow, creative moment together. Thank you for creating alongside me. May your sketchbook feel like a sanctuary. Until we meet again in the next episode. Love ya. Tooroo.